Hi, my name is Wendy Cervantes. I'm the director of the Immigration and Immigrant Families team at the Center for Law and Social Policy. I'm also a mom of two young daughters. I'm also the proud daughter of Mexican immigrants and a proud member of my school's PTA. The really anti-immigrant rhetoric and the increase in immigration policies that are resulting in the deportation of parents across the country has really undermined the ability of schools to be able to keep their places safe places for learning. And this is something that has really impacted even more than just immigrant students or children who have immigrant parents. It's really impacted all students that attend our public K-12 schools, because when immigration agents are present, when there are arrests happening in the view of all students, it really undermines a sense of safety and really creates a lot of confusion for students, and it puts a lot of strain on our schools. And so I think this is a time where schools are really grappling with what they can do to keep their students and their staff safe. And it's also a time that we as community members are really trying to figure out how we can show up for our immigrant kids and families that are feeling really vulnerable right now. So the Protecting Sensitive Locations Act would codify that policy that had been in place for 30 years by restricting immigration enforcement actions in places like schools, childcare centers, places where children gather, playgrounds, places of worship, religious ceremonies, and once again provide that sense of protection that families can safely go drop their kids off to school, go to see a doctor, go to their Mass on Sunday, and not be concerned that doing those basic activities is going to result in deportation or any kind of interaction with ICE agents. So we are encouraging people to support the legislation and are really happy that there has been so much momentum and support from educators, parents, and other people who care about kids and families and keeping schools safe around the country. There have been laws and protections in the books for a long time to protect student information. One of these is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, which really requires schools to maintain the confidentiality of information that's used at enrollment time, and only allows very few exceptions for when that data can be shared with external entities, usually government officials, and not with immigration enforcement. It's really important for schools to review their policies to make sure that their enrollment practices are not unintentionally collecting information such as immigration status that they are not required, and in many cases not permitted to collect. And then also making sure that they have procedures in place and are communicating to parents about how that data is being protected and used by the school. And then there's also, it's really important for schools to look to make sure that they have friendly enrollment practices, including making sure that they have materials and languages that parents can understand, and have, to the extent possible, staff on hand to help support parents at enrollment time. New York City Public Schools has a policy in place that actually clearly lays out what frontline staff as well as principals are supposed to do should there be an interaction with somebody who's not local law enforcement, such as an immigration agent. And it creates really clear protocols for who to call, how to talk to the officer, what types of warrants they should be asking for, and what types of identification. Another example is that the LA Unified School District has put together a lot of really interesting and creative policies to address immigration actions near their schools. They have a really clear policy that states that immigration agents are not supposed to be on school grounds, and they also have protocols in place for how to address instances where ICE may come onto school grounds or ask to enter a school building. And they've also come up with some creative ideas, including trying to make it safer for families to be able to go to school, and they've adjusted some existing routes and added new ones to pick up students closer to their home so they can actually minimize the extent to which they might be exposed to any type of law enforcement, but in particular immigration enforcement agents. I think it's really important for parents to know just how powerful they are as advocates in this space. We have found parents, teachers, social workers, pediatricians to be some of the most effective messengers when talking about the impact of immigration policies on kids. And just being able to say that as a parent, I see how my own kid, and this doesn't have to be a kid who's an immigrant or a parent who's an immigrant, but just as a parent saying, I believe that all kids are welcome and my school should be welcome, that no one should be afraid to access an education, goes a really long way. A lot of these coalitions include PTA members and associations, and it's been really inspiring to see, and have gone to rally in front of state legislatures and state office buildings, and testified and submitted letters to the editor, and been spokespeople for to really fight back against what we're seeing in terms of attacks on immigrant families, and also really trying to push protective policies. We have heard policymakers change their minds and make decisions based on on the testimonies that they're hearing from parents, both those that are immigrants themselves and those that are simply allies who understand that an immigrant parent has the same hopes and dreams for their children as they have for their own. So I just really want parents to know how much power they have, and to use that power. We have seen parents all over the country and in all different types of schools really step up and come up with creative ideas to how to support immigrant families that are hurting right now. I've heard about parents organizing food delivery to parents that are afraid to leave their homes, parents coordinating transportation for kids, whether it's walking or providing carpools to get kids safely to school without putting their parents at risk of arrest by ICE agents. One thing that we do at our school is an international night where families are invited to bring food that celebrates their culture, and there's cultural, students dance and celebrating their heritage and dress up in their cultural attire that their families have shared with them. And it's a really beautiful opportunity to just really celebrate the diversity and let immigrants in the community know that they're welcome and part of the school community. Yeah, I actually hear from a lot of parents who are scared right now and trying to figure out how to get support. And I really do encourage them to go to their school, to talk to their fellow PTA members, and talk to the resources at the school, all of the staff, because there are supports that schools can provide, and to just reach out to community members and parents, because there are so many people who are willing to be a listening ear, to provide direct support, to give that ride to school if their kid needs it. And I have just been really inspired over the past year to see just how willing people are to help and how much they truly believe that schools should be a safe place for all families, and that our communities are here to welcome all kids and families.